people knew something was up with her, but they didn't really know. Um, I knew it because
Individuals realized something was up with her, yet they didn't actually know. I knew it as a result of I've been around it, you realize I miss my family. I'll be here regardless of how frequently someone might tumble down, you got to lift them back up, so another narrative was as of late. Delivered on Wendy Williams, and her family is losing it since Wendy doesn't appear to intellectually act naturally any longer, and it is getting hard to monitor her. I feel like the gatekeeper has not worked effectively of safeguarding my life right. Currently, she's frail and weak. I imagine that the guardianship framework is broken. We are her family, and you let me know that I'm not equipped for dealing with my sister. How might you respond? What would it be advisable for me I do during Tuesday's episode of The View? Bright Houston got serious about her experience watching the Where is Wendy Williams narrative. Radiant, who used to work with Wendy as a legitimate Falcon on her public broadcast, communicated how excruciating it was for her to observe her companion in the tosses of fixation. She shared that she watched the two-section narrative with Wendy's niece Alex Finney to acquire a superior comprehension of what befell her buddy. So difficult to watch. I think we as a whole know, not. By and by, I love Wendy's yet, I cherished her for quite a long time. To see anyone go through this, and to see a family go through this, yet it featuring the circumstance prompting the narrative. Radiant reference that Wendy had marked an arrangement for 3 narratives prior to confronting crippling. The narratives were initially planned to exhibit Wendy's rebound, yet the unexpected difficulties, including the pandemic, her significant other's undertaking divorce, and the deficiency of her mom moved the center. My mother has worked really hard, causing it to appear as though all is great generally. Wendy, ensure you look here, 1, 2, 3. Yet, as a general rule, there's a going thing on in spite of that. Individual difficulties. Radiant lauded Wendy for staying strong, recognizing the crowd's praise. She likewise shielded Wendy's family, underscoring their adoration for herself as well as their craving to draw nearer to her anyway. Bright uncovered that they actually have no data about the office Wendy is in because of the legitimate guardianship she is under, examining the effect of dementia and guardianships. Bright communicated her conviction that being around relatives can be helpful for somebody going through dementia, as it might summon recollections. She raised worries about the guardianship framework, expressing that Wendy's family needs to be nearer to her, yet the legitimate requirements make it provoking because of co-have happiness bears inquiry concerning Wendy's whereabouts. Bright cleared up that due for the guardianship framework, Wendy's family knows nothing about her area. She brought up Diane Jewell, a specialist in guardianship, who expressed in the narrative that 90% of individuals in guardianships don't get away from them. Bright shared her interests about the current framework, alluding to its possible defects and the requirement for a more in-depth assessment in a smart and humane tone. She stretched out her all best to Wendy, a companion who has been determined to have frontotemporal dementia and discourse influencing aphasia. The conversation drove by Whoopi Goldberg spun around the moral contemplations of creating the narrative on Wendy's excursion. The sister act state underlined that Wendy's family pursued an aggregate choice to grandstand the cycle, driven by the assumption that it would take an alternate heading. Alyssa Farah Griffin, in a genuine commitment, uncovered her tangled feelings in the wake of watching the narrative. She openly owned up to switching off the second episode as it blended recollections of her kin anguishing fight with habit. Alyssa, keeping up with responsiveness, communicated worry about uncovering Wendy's most obscure minutes and scrutinized the need of such open disclosure. Getting serious about her own family's experience, Alyssa described her sister's very long-term battle with enslavement. Regardless of her sister's inevitable recuperation, Alyssa conveyed the close-to-home cost of seeing a friend or family member in the tosses of dependence, stressing the significant changes in character and the trouble of those minutes. The discussion took a turn as Bliss joined the conversation, recognizing the difficult idea of the narrative. He referred to a companion drug guide, declared that addictions trump connections, highlighting the strong hold that enslavement can have on people. Euphoria, Bright, and Alyssa, all in all, concerned that the two-section narrative was sincerely difficult to watch. The tripled accentuated the delicate idea of Wendy's circumstance, recognizing the intricacies encompassing her well-being, which incorporates frontotransient dementia, aphasia, lymphedema, and grave sickness. Alyssa presented the subject eye of Gar Diane Ships, considering it a drastic action, she addressed whether it was suitable for general society to observe Wendy's own battles and considered the inspirations driving observing such a narrative. In any case, as Delight recorded Wendy's different medical problems, Whoopi contributed with a feeling of disappointment, recognizing Wendy's multi-layered difficulties. Whoopi focused on that the family knew about Wendy's well-being intricacies and had settled on an aggregate choice to report her process. Communicating a craving for the family to have more access, Whoopi featured the hardships they face in associating with Wendy during her difficult times in an end proclamation. Whoopi conveyed all the best and well-meaning goals, underlining Wendy's well-established fellowship with the show individual. She recognized the intricacy of Wendy's circumstance, communicating expect goal and solace for both Wendy and her family. And they're not by any means the only ones to be baffled. Pretty much this the as of late delivered two-section Lifetime docuseries, whereas Wendy Williams has worked up debate as it depicts the previous host seeming perplexed with occurrences where she doesn't perceive her supervisor and conflicts over void alcohol bottles in her loft. Shanzanat, a key figure included in the docu-series and Williams' marketing specialist, beginning around 2021, communicated her dissatisfaction in an elite meeting with NBC News. Zanat felt that Williams was being taken advantage of, underscoring that Williams accepted the emphasis would be on her vocation rebound, not on depicting her in a powerless and muddled state. Zenit uncovered that the task was at first pitched to her by Animal Movies and E1 TV. In 2022, a similar creation organization behind One More Lifetime narrative on Williams named Wendy Williams. What a wreck. When Zenat proposed the narrative plan to Williams, she quickly concurred, communicating a longing to share her story anyway. The circulated narrative didn't line up with what Zenat claims was at first settled upon. She stated that the depiction in the docu-series was not the venture Williams had pursued, and it digressed from the first vision that was introduced to her. Zenat featured that the narrative discarded numerous good minutes, expressing there were a ton of good minutes. Those great minutes were not generally shown, adding to the intricacy. Only one day before the narrative circulated, Williams' supervisory crew put out an announcement reporting that she was in a therapy office determined to have essential moderate aphasia and fronto-worldly dementia, regardless of not having addressed Williams since her entrance into the therapy office in April. Zenat explained that she is as yet utilized as Williams' marketing expert. The circumstance encompassing the narrative has brought up issues about the moral parts of depicting somebody managing well-being challenges, and Zena's meeting reveals insight into the disparities between the settled-upon project and the all outcome introduced to the crowd in a new meeting with Today. The movie producers uncovered that they knew nothing about Wendy Williams' finding during the development of the narrative, notwithstanding recognizing that there were days when Williams seemed like her typical self and different days when she wasn't. They settled to continue with it. Undertaking showrunner Erica Hansen accentuated the group's obligation to recounting a mind-boggling and touchy story with poise and responsiveness. Anyway, Zenat, Williams' marketing expert, has a few doubts. So this clarification, Zenat communicated question that the producers would have stopped the venture regardless of whether they realized about Williams' determination. As per her, the makers kept on posing inquiries all through shooting, in some cases purposefully catching minutes where Williams seemed confounded to accommodate their account. Zenat described the narrative as all the more an unscripted TV drama depicting a carnival prompting Williams' defeat than the narrative it was introduced to. But notwithstanding endeavors to convey her interest, Zenat expressed that her protests were excused, and she even raised her concerns with Williams' gatekeeper Sabrina Morrissey during creation. I disagreed with what was the deal with this narrative, Zenat declared. I made it extremely obvious to the gatekeeper the creation organization knew about